Hi guys. Um, some of you may know me by Lindsay. My name is Lindsay Eileen that I go by, and I'm here to talk about a really heavy topic that I think needs to be talked about a lot more, and that is the dangers of alcohol and drug dependency, and it's a lot more common than you would think. Um, because there's usually one extreme or the other. There's usually a group of people who are very open about it and, kind of have that whole like, I don't give a attitude about it. And then there's people that really try to hide it because they're ashamed and, they feel like people won't understand what they're going through. So they conceal it. And sometimes I think that's the more dangerous way to go because it's harder to get yourself help that way. So I decided to do this because some of you may know that I am currently a recovering addict myself. Um, I wanted to make a video diary series about my journey through addiction, um, mostly because I think it will be helpful for me for its own reasons. I think it will be helpful for people in my life that have had to kind of sit back and watch this happen to me and feel kind of helpless and powerless over what was going on. And the bottom line is, that I'll say right now is there's no excuses. Um, I'm going to use my journey and things that I've done to better myself and to strengthen myself. And that's about all I can do. But in the end, no matter what I was doing, my choices were mine. And I have to own them and I have to accept the consequences of them. But, all the same, addiction is baffling and powerful and controls you in a way that, at least in my life, nothing else has. And so I'm going to try to keep this first video relatively short, but I'm going to tell my story. And the purpose of this, besides, shedding some light on it, is I know there are so many addicts out there who suffer. And I want you to know that you are not alone. I cannot promise you that everyone in your life is going to understand. I cannot promise you that everyone in your life is going to be there for you, but I can promise you that there are people and there are resources out there that want to help you. And getting to that place is the absolute hardest part. It's all hard, but getting to the place where you're ready to accept help is tough. So I don't judge you, and everybody has their own journey. I believe in you, and the reason I am here today is because someone chose to believe in me when I forgot to believe in myself, and I owe that person my life. So I will tell you my story if you're willing to listen. So back in 2010, I was diagnosed with having ovarian cysts. And if you've ever had them before, they hurt like a bitch. And I ended up being hospitalized. And when I was sent home from the hospital, the doctors prescribed me Loratab, hydrocodone. Now, I had never taken that kind of medicine before. I wasn't really into drugs. I had smoked pot a few times, um, and any of my friends will tell you it's probably not a good idea for me. Pot and I never got along very well. So marijuana like made me feel very paranoid. So when I found out that these drugs could make you feel high, I was actually very terrified to take them. I was afraid that they would give me that same high feeling because that's all I had to compare it to. And I remember even calling my friend Tahara that night because I was scared, and I called her for support and comfort. And so my mom ended up staying the night with me, and she ended up being like the voice of reason for me. And she said, like, why don't we just cut it in half and see how you feel. And I did that, and I felt wonderful. And a lot of this goes back to the fact, and there's things that a lot of people don't know about me in my past that I'm not going to get into, but let's just chalk it up to I've dealt with anxiety my entire life. So, this medicine, as you may know, has a tendency to produce euphoric feelings. And to anybody that doesn't know what that means, euphoria is a state of pure bliss. Your body, your mind, your spirit, everything feels amazing and in tune with the world and the universe. And you're on, that's where the expression cloud nine comes from, because you feel like nothing can hurt you, nothing can stop you. You feel really good. And I remember like calling Tahara back, like 25 minutes later, like, oh, I feel great. I feel fine. I'm so relaxed. And it was all funny at the time. And so I continued to take them, eventually bumped up to my like full dose of a full pill. And I was working as a waitress at this time in my life. And all of a sudden, I just became a really good waitress. Um, I was really peppy and energetic, was making sure all my work was done, was interacting with the customers. I mean, I was just happy as a clam. And I didn't really understand the effect that they were having on me. I knew they made me feel better, but I didn't understand. I was very naive to the dangers and the addiction aspect of everything. So, but all good things must come to an end, and eventually I ran out of that script. And the guy that I was seeing at the time had recently had surgery, and he was a firm believer in just not taking medicine in general. Like, he just didn't like taking pills at all, which good for him. And he had leftover hydrocodone from his surgery, and I'm sure because we were in a new relationship and he liked me and he wanted to make me happy and whatever, he let me have the rest of his script. Now, mind you, at this time, I had no idea that that was illegal. I'm sure I could have read the label on the bottle, but whatever. I didn't understand that it was wrong. Um, but after a while, he began to express his concerns, like telling me like what they can lead to and how you can easily become addicted. And oh, I know, but that won't happen to me. Like, I don't even like drugs, whatever. Like, I don't have an addictive personality. I smoke, but I don't have an addictive personality. And eventually, I started understanding the effects, and I would take them specifically at certain times. Like if I knew I was going to be doing something physically strenuous, I would want to make sure I took drugs. And if I knew I was going to be having sex, I would want to take drugs. And I would, anything that really I would want to be happy for, I would take those. So, um, but again, all good things come to an end. And I was, I ran out of that script. I was supposed to go out with my friends We were supposed to go downtown, and I was hanging out at a friend's house, and all of a sudden I felt really sick, like almost like I had the flu. And it came out of nowhere, and I ended up going home because I just literally went from like 0 to 3, 1,000 on the pain scale. Like it literally happened within minutes. Like I was sick, and so I went home, and the person I was living with, like a mother figure, like kind of took care of me, tucked me into bed, whatever. And then I ended up waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, my fever. I could almost feel my fever like go from my toes up to my head. Like I went from like cold to like burning hot really fast, then to freezing cold, like again. And I ended up going to the hospital, and it was crazy because I didn't tell them that I was taking that medication because I really didn't think I had to. I don't know why. I just didn't make that connection at the time. And like I remember they like quarantined me because they thought I had some like crazy virus that like, they couldn't even figure out what it was. They did so many tests on me. They ended up diagnosing me with something called mycoplasma that I had never even heard of. And I mean, the pain was so bad. They actually like shot me up with morphine in the hospital. And I'm assuming that's why I started to feel better, because what I didn't know at the time was I was going through opiate withdrawal. And anybody that's ever gone through opiate withdrawal, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you know exactly how much it sucks. And that you would rather be dead than to go through that. You feel like you're dying. It's it's basically the worst flu you can imagine multiplied by 10, not to mention the psychological warfare you're going through at the time. It's just awful. And um, I obviously had really no way to get that medication anymore. So I pretty much stayed on the couch with Tylenol and ibuprofen for the next week, and you know, wrote it out. And after that, I kind of just, I didn't really understand that I was addicted, so I didn't really think. I mean, I guess I missed them for like a minute, but I really had no desire to seek them out. So I got over it, and for about a good 8 or 9 months, I didn't touch them again. And then about 8 or 9 months later, my boyfriend at the time and I ended up breaking up, and it was a really shitty time in my life. And started seeing someone shortly after, and at my job, I overheard one of the other employees talking about their surgery and that they took that medication. And I swear, like, you know how, like, when a dog hears something in the distance, like their ears perk up? Like, I heard the name of the medicine, and it was almost like I was like, like that craving came back and that desire came back. Like, so I went up to that person and I said, oh, like I've been in a lot of pain. Like, do you care if I bum a couple off of you? Whatever. And they did, and they did, and thus began my pitfall and my downward spiral into the land of addiction. And I am going to, within the next few videos that I post, get into the real details of what this did. This is just my little, introduction to how easy it can be, guys. I never had any expectation of becoming a drug addict. I went into the hospital for an injury and was sent home with something that changed my life in the worst ways. And I am paying for those consequences, and I am in the process of rebuilding my life. And it took a lot of guts for me to share this with the world, but I need to share this with the addict who still suffers because I know what it feels like to be alone during this, and it always helps when someone believes in you. And always be careful, mind your medicines. If you're an adult and you're prescribed this, like make sure they're locked up, make sure they're put in a safe place. Because all it takes is one time and you can be addicted. That's what happened to me. And it sucks and it's been a really shitty ride, but I do believe that it's going to make me a better and stronger person. And like I said, I have every intention of getting into the more gruesome details of what this did. I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to be very direct about the truth of what this disease can do. But more people need to be aware of this, and more people need to understand what they're up against because I promise you, you have no idea what you're up against. So, thank you for listening if you made it this far. And I will be posting another video shortly. And I hope you do listen because this is my story. And I'm ready to tell it with the world. So I will be back later. And thank you for listening.